I want to go back to sports psychology for a bit, though, Darren. We were talking about Rory McIlroy. He called himself brain dead, didn't he, during the course of some of his poor rounds at the Open Championship. Dan Abrahams is a leading sports psychologist who joins us now. Dan, good evening to you.
Good evening, guys.
I understand that Rory McIlroy has never, up to this point in his career, utilised a sports psychologist. It's not for everybody, is it?
It isn't, but there does come a point where it's useful to try new things. And most of the world's top golfers have utilised sports psychology, so it's something that he could actually work on, he could try.
Well, it comes a time where you've seen, we mentioned him, Rory McIlroy, especially on this one, because he's come out and said there's no way he's seen a psychologist, yet he's saying his head's all over the place in interviews. So, is he confused?
Look, here's a guy who, before I was a sports psychologist, I was a golf coach, I was a golf pro. We all knew how good he was at 15 years old. This kid was playing off +5, a handicap of +5. He's never really had to deal with adversity. In fact, the first time he dealt with it was when he blew up in the Masters a couple of years ago. So he doesn't necessarily have a history of having to manage his mindset, having to get through tough times. He's going through tough times now, so he doesn't have that blueprint, if you like. Whether it's through coaching, mainstream coaching, or whether it's through sports psychology, he obviously needs to find an answer.
Is golf the ultimate sport in terms of psychology?
My expertise is in golf and football, and I would say that all sports have a psychological component. The reality with golf is you're not in a team. You don't have to communicate. You're out there on your own. But there's so much time to think. There's so much time to resonate the bad stuff that goes on. You hit a bad shot, and you've got 3 or 4 minutes until you get up to your next shot, and there's a lot of time for that stress to sink in. So in that respect, it certainly can be.
The difference there, you're saying working football and golf, and I played cricket for a long time, and we used them as a team. And the thing is, like you've just said there, golf, it's more one-on-one, isn't it? Talking about channeling your anxieties or whatever. But with a team, it's totally different because you're working and now get the best out of, say, Team England.
Yes.
But with a golfer, it's channeling his own aggression, his anger, similar to tennis, I would say.
Absolutely. Look, to me, in any sport, ultimately, as an individual or as part of a team, it's all about managing your mindset. You know, as a cricketer, you're bowling, you've got to manage your mindset in the moment there. If you're getting hit all over the place, you've got to manage that. As a golfer, if you start off bogey, 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 you've got to manage that. So ultimately, sport comes down to how well you manage your focus, your confidence, your emotional level, your intensity level. So every sport is highly psychological, and it's obviously useful for any golfer or any sports person to have some kind of structure, mental structure, to what they're actually doing when they're under pressure.
And I wonder, just finally, Dan, what you think. We've seen in football this summer, we've seen England's under-20s fail at the World Cup. We've seen the under-21s fail at the European Championship. We've seen England's women fail at their European Championships. I don't know about whether that psychologically puts even more pressure on the senior male England squad going into the World Cup qualifiers they've got coming up, or whether that makes no difference at all.
I think the male squad, the senior male squad, will be focusing on what they have to do. In terms of the age groups, again, working heavily in football, British football is going to go through a tough time at the moment. We've got a lot of helpless 16 to 21-year-olds who look up at the first team and all they can think is, how do I get there? It's an extraordinarily difficult task for all of them. So I'm afraid, as a football fan, and I don't want to be doom and gloom, but it's going to be a period of possibly not having a lot of players coming through to first-team football and having a great national team.
Dan, appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on this afternoon. That's Dan Abrahams, a leading sports psychologist.